Hey everybody, this is Unit 3, Formative 3, Elimination, Day 2. Alright, so these two problems look a little bit different than the one that we had yesterday. If you take a close look at it, they're both still in standard form like we dealt with our elimination problems yesterday. But now the only difference is 3x plus 2x aren't going to eliminate, and y plus negative 2y is not going to eliminate either. So what we want to do in this case is actually look for one of the two variables that can multiply to be the other one, or to cancel the other one out. So can 3 multiply by anything to be 2? No. Well, can 2 multiply by anything to be 3? No. Okay, but could we multiply the y by anything to cancel out the negative 2? The answer is yes, we could multiply y by 2, and then 2 and negative 2 would cancel each other out. So if we're going to multiply the y by 2, I have to multiply this entire equation by 2. Okay, when I do that then, my new equation is going to be 6x, because 2 times 3x gives me 6x, plus 2 times y gives me 2y, and 2 times 5 gives me 10. Now again, we did this because we wanted to cancel out our y's. Okay, and the way that they are right now, they're not going to cancel out. So we'd have to multiply this by a 2, okay, to be able to cancel out the y's here, just like we did yesterday. The second equation is going to stay the same, so we have 2x minus 2y equals negative 2. Okay, so now we're going to work with these two equations here instead of these two. So now, just like yesterday, we should be able to add these two together, and one of our variables is going to cancel out. Well, since we multiplied by 2 to get the y's to be the same thing, or opposites, our y's are going to cancel out here. 2y plus negative 2y will cancel out. 6x plus 2x gives me 8x. 10 plus negative 2 gives me 8. Divide by 8 on both sides, you get x to be 1. Okay, since x equals 1, now we can take that and we could plug that in to this equation. We could plug it into this one, or we could plug it into this one. It really doesn't matter. Okay, the easiest one in this case is actually going to be this one without the 2 on the outside. Okay, if you're going to plug it into this one, do it without the 2 on the outside. That's just going to make it easier. Okay, so we have 3 times 1 then, because this 1 gets plugged in right here. 3 times 1 plus y equals 5. So this part is exactly the same as what we did with substitution and with yesterday. This is no different. So 3 plus y equals 5. Subtract the 3. Y is equal to 2. So your ordered pair is 1, 2. And there's your answer. All right, your next problem here, same idea. Okay, looking at this, will our x's cancel out? No, because it's a 6 and a negative 3. Our y's aren't going to cancel out because it's a 4 and a 3. But if we look here, the smaller of the two is the negative 3, and can we multiply negative 3 by anything to be negative 6? Because that's what we want to cancel out the positive 6x. So the answer is yes. If we multiply this by 2, it's going to give us negative 6, and then that'll cancel out by positive 6x. So we're going to take and multiply this equation by a 2 again. Okay, so my first equation this time stays the same, 6x plus 4y equals 42. My second equation is going to change to negative 6x plus 6y equals negative 12. Notice how I multiplied everything, not just the x's. Okay, now remember why we did that. We did that to cancel out our x's. So if we look here now, our x's are both 6 and negative 6, which will eliminate each other once we add the two equations. So I'm going to cross those off. Then we have 4y plus 6y gives 10y, and 42 plus negative 12 is 30. Divide by 10, y is 3. Okay, now we have our y value, so we're going to take this and plug it back in for y to get our x value. It doesn't matter which equation, let's just plug it in the very first one here. So that gives me 6x plus 4 times 3 equals 42. Remember to be plugging it back in for the correct variable. If you found y, don't plug it in for x. 6x plus 12 equals 42 minus the 12. 6x equals 30. Divide by 6, so x is going to be 5. So 5 comma 3 would be your answer. All right, did you know that the world record for time without sleep is 264 hours, which is equivalent to 11 days? And that was by Randy Gardner in 1965. All right, here is another problem. This one works a little bit different, because if we take a close look, okay, you can't multiply anything by 3 to equal -5, okay, because that's what it would take to cancel out the x. And you can't multiply anything by 8 to equal a +9, because that's what you would need to cancel out a -9. So what you're going to have to do is actually multiply both equations in this case. The easiest thing to do is just to work with your x's and cancel those out. If one isn't going to cancel, if it's not going to cancel out by just multiplying one equation. So you want to think of a common number that you could multiply both 5 and 3 by to get them to cancel out, or in other words, the least common multiple. So 15 would actually work in this case. So 5 times 3 will give me 15. So I'm going to multiply the entire first equation by 3. So that gives me 15x minus 3 times 9 is 27y. And 43 times 3 is going to give me 129. Negative 129 in this case. Okay, so now I have a +15 as my x's. Remember, that's what we're going to try and cancel out. Okay, so what do I need to multiply 3 by to cancel out a +15? Well, you want to multiply it by a -5, because -5 times 3 will give you -15. Okay, so we'll write that first, -15. Then we have -5 times 8, which gives me a -40. Or I could just write -40. Y. And then 68 times 5 gives me -340, because it's a negative times a positive. Okay, so now if you look, our x's are the same, so now they're going to cancel out. So we want to add these two equations together. So 15 plus -15, those will cancel out. -27 plus -40 is -67y. -129 plus -340 is -469. Divide by -67, and you get y to be a +7, because it's a negative divided by a negative. All right, so there's your y value. Even though you had some bigger numbers, it worked out to be nice with just 7. Okay, so we're going to take that y to be 7 and plug it back in right here for the y. Okay, you don't need to use the equation with the bigger numbers. Just use 5x minus 9y equals -43. So we have 5x minus 9 times 7 equals -43. 5x minus 9 times 7 is 63 equals -43. Add the 63. You're going to get 5x equals 20. Divide by 5. So x is 4. Therefore, your ordered pair would be 4, 7. All right, so that one was a little trickier just because we had to multiply both equations, but it's still the same idea. All right, and here's the last one here. Okay, so once again, nothing times 3 will give me a -4 because that's what I would need to cancel out my x's. And nothing can multiply by 2 to give me -3 because that's what I would need to cancel out my y's. So I'm going to have to multiply this first equation by something, okay? Let's work with our x's, okay? So a least common multiple between 3 and 4, or something that they can both multiply by a number to get the same thing, would be we want to multiply them by something to get to 12. So 3 times 4 gives me 12. So when I do that, I'd get 12x plus 8y equals 4 because I multiplied 4 times everything in there. Okay, well that means I need to multiply something by the second equation to get a -12 for my x's. Well, that means I would have to multiply by -3. So that gives me -12x plus -9y equals +6. So once again, I multiplied by everything by -3. Okay, now remember what we did. We multiplied by both equations to be able to cancel out our x's. So therefore, we're going to add our equations together. Our x's are going to cancel out. Now I have 8 plus -9y to give me -1y. 4 plus 6 to give me 10. Divide by -1, y is 10. All right, take your 10, plug it back in for y. You get 3x plus 2 times 10 equals 1. Remember, we're plugging it in for y, not for x. 3x plus 20 equals 1. Subtract the 20. 3x equals -19. Divide by 3, and you get x to be -19 over 3. You can just leave it as a fraction. Therefore, your answer would be -19 over 3, comma 10. Oops. No wonder why that came out. Okay, so this should be a -10 here. And then this is actually going to change here as well. So I'm not going to get a fraction. So I messed up there. Sorry, guys. So that's going to change that. This is why it's important to follow your signs. So really you should have 3x minus 20 equals 1. Add the 20. 3x equals 21. Divide by 3, and you should get 7 as your x value. All right. Make sure you took notes, guys, and we will see you later.